I'm Paulina Leiser, producer of Focus Today. Thank you for watching this video, and make sure to check our other videos at theDove.us.
Welcome back to Focus Today, and been a while, and yet it's a delight and an honor to have back with us today Dave Dotterrer. He is a public charter school board member, though, at LOGOS schools, and we want to talk to him about that. And he also recently has just returned from a kind of an interesting job where you kind of headed up the transition team of now Secretary of State Dennis Richardson.
Yes.
That was quite an experience.
You know, it really was. One of the things that I did before I went into that was I went into the internet and I Googled transitions to see how you're supposed to do this. And I found that I came up with a 0. And so I started with a blank piece of paper and said, okay, so how do you do this? And you kind of have to make it up a little bit as you go along. There's no template for it.
Wow.
And so it was really interesting.
So you had from the time he was elected until
Correct.
he took office.
And actually I stayed on for another month after that. I stayed through the end of January because we said, you know, just because you're in the seat doesn't mean the transition is over.
Right.
You've got a lot of other things, and that's when his new staff was coming in and getting settled in and everything. And I'm still doing a little bit of work for him on a part-time basis from a distance.
Big job, isn't it?
Yeah.
Secretary of State.
Oh, yeah. You know, people don't realize how much he influences and how much responsibility he has. It was an eye opener for me.
Yeah. That's a big job.
Yeah, it really was, and there's going to be some changes there. It's going to be interesting, as I'm sure all your listeners are well aware of.
Yeah.
He's not he's breaking the mold, you know, with the accountability and the transparency issues that really need to happen in
He
our
can do a
country.
lot of things that are within his budget that don't require extra budget. I mean, just the way he manages audits and things like that.
Absolutely, absolutely. What is it you just he gets to decide? Well, what are we going to audit? And the interesting part of that is, you know, the founding fathers of the state of Oregon were really smart. They wrote the Constitution way back in the 1850s that said the Secretary of State is a constitutionally separate officer, separately elected, and this person will do the audits, not the governor's people, not the legislature or anything like that. And that's the constitutional power that he has.
Wow. So he's going to see if we're getting our bang for the buck.
Yes.
I mean,
yeah.
the ROI, the return on investment.
That's right. You can use all those fancy words. How about this one?
Okay. Is it paying for itself?
Yes. How about there are some rocks that are going to get turned over?
Okay. This is going to be interesting. Well, I wanted to talk to you about your role as a board member there at LOGOS Charter School and the whole issue of charter schools. And you know, it was a little tough, but now we have a new Secretary of Education on the national scene who believes in charter schools and school choice. What's your take?
Well, I'm thrilled by all this. I think this is really great. One of the things we need to keep in mind is, you know, the federal government only provides about 10% of the funding. So people that will tell you, well, this is going to take away funding for public schools. No, that's not what's going to happen. What you're going to see, I think, is an opening and an encouragement from the federal level that says, well, you know, let's look at choice. Let's see what works. Let's allow the states to experiment. And if it fails, okay. But my view is, well, so how's it working out for you right now?
Through the charter school system.
Through the charter schools,
yeah.
Through all the other different school choices that are there, the online schooling. The point is, kids learn differently, and we need to make sure that they have all these options. And I think that's what's going to happen is you're going to see that choice happen, and it doesn't mean that public schools go away or anything like that. I mean, that's just an unfounded fear.
Okay, so how does a charter school work? So explain that.
Well, in this particular case, LOGOS Charter School is in fact a school within the Medford School District.
Okay.
Okay. So what happens is when Medford goes to the state for their funding, our students are included in those numbers.
Okay.
Okay. The money comes to the Medford School District, and a percentage of it then transfers over. At K through 8, it's 80% transfers to the school, and in high school it's 95%. So you can already see that we're already more efficient than some of the other entities, and that's what we use to fund our school.
So what's the advantage of a parent saying, I want my child to go to LOGOS?
Well, the advantage is, first off, we're fundamentally a homeschooling. This is support for homeschooling parents.
Okay.
And the advantage is, well, first off, if you've decided that you want to homeschool your child, great. That's what works, and it doesn't work all the time. I mean, we have parents that come in and say they want to do this, and then
they're in over their head.
They're in over their head, absolutely. And we
Yeah.
go back to them sometimes, have to say, you know what, this is not the right thing for your child, or this doesn't work. But you know, those parents need support. And so we provide them with that kind of support. Let's say, for example, that you want to homeschool, but you're not particularly strong in mathematics at the high school level.
Right.
You just, I don't know about you, but I've probably forgotten most of my high school mathematics.
Algebra, I think I know.
Exactly. I think I have. Okay. How about art classes? I mean, you know, we have an art studio there. We have also what the school does for the parents is the teacher's assistants will sit down with the parent and build the curriculum for the child that's best for them, that gets them to graduation, meets all the state standards, because we have to meet all the state standards in terms of graduation. And by the way, our graduation rate is over 90%.
Good for you. Congratulations.
It's the highest in the school district. And so those are the kinds of things you do, and then that teacher that will assist the parent, will go and make sure that things are working right. So, you know.
Let's go to school choice just for a moment. That is a big issue, and it does create a little fear in the public school district, because fundamentally, doesn't your tax dollar follow your child?
That's correct.
To the school of choice?
Well, 80% of it does, or 95% of it does, yeah. Right. But I mean, that's absolutely right. But you know, the counter to that would be, well, you're no longer having to educate this other child. This child is now being educated over there. So, you know, if your funding formula is right, what's the difference?
Okay. A lot of people don't hear that part of the argument.
Sure.
But it's not 100%. So the public school does retain some of your tax dollars.
And you know, actually, there is a certain amount of functions that are done by the Medford School District, because at the highest level, there's a certain expense there, and so I understand that. Whether or not it's 5% or 20% is a whole different issue. But that's in state statute. That's the way it works.
All right. Now, one of the arguments in public education is there's just too much money doesn't make it to the classroom. It stays at the higher end of administration. Is those legitimate? Are those legitimate arguments?
I believe they are. And now being on the board of a charter school, I can tell you that we are much. Our hierarchy, our bureaucracy is much less than it is in the rest of the school district, the rest of the schools. And so I think we're much more efficient with that money, because we really don't have the overhead that the other schools have. We've got much more freedom to do things the way we want to make sure that we want to do them.
The other thing is that public schools are required to do so much in addition to the 3 R's. Is that true?
Well,
I mean, a lot of social things and meals, and I want to be careful here, because I certainly want to see children taken care of, but does it take away from the basic education?
Well, you know, I think you're going to have to ask the folks in the regular schools.
Yeah.
We find ourselves having to do a certain amount of that, obviously, but we're dealing with homeschooling parents who obviously have got a very, very direct interest. That's the big strength of our school is, by definition, a homeschooling parent is intimately involved in the education of their child. And so all the other aspects of that growth of the child is there also, you know. So
you're highly experienced in the legislature. You spent a lot of years up there. You worked with Dennis Richardson, who was kind of the budget hawk, as you well know, and always an argument for more money to go to public education. It's always the political football at the end. Are our schools underfunded?
I don't believe they are. I mean, I think that they're misfunded. They're improperly funded, in the sense that the money is not going to the classroom like you talk about. But part of the problem well, Dennis used to say this. He would say, you know, money is an opiate, and
you get addicted to it,
and you get addicted to it,
yeah.
what I see happening, and by the way, I also see this happening particularly in some Veterans Affairs programs too, is look, we have a problem. If we just give them some more money, they'll solve the problem.
Right.
Well, the problem with that is rather than solving the problem, you're just spending more money on the problem.
Right.
And that's not necessarily going to solve the problem. And I think that a little more discipline and, how should I say, tough love,
right.
I think is in order. How you do that, of course, is difficult, but this idea that that education is being cut, well, that's a reduction in their increase because they're getting increases.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we got a new incoming Secretary of Education who's very strong on school choice, charter schools. I guess saw the light on Common Core. At one point she was kind of for it, now she's against it. Where is Common Core? Do you know? I mean, is it entrenched or is it being booted out?
No, I don't think I wouldn't call it entrenched. It certainly isn't entrenched at LOGOS. I mean, there are state standards that we have to follow, and we're doing that.
Good.
Okay, but I don't see. You know, of course, I haven't been at a board meeting for 3 months because I've been up in Salem and everything. But you know, I haven't heard big discussions about Common Core. Again, there are these state standards that are out there, but they keep moving.
All right, so we got a new Secretary of Education, and it's a new day. Where do you think it's going overall? I mean, some people would like to see the Department of Education wiped out and let states control their own schools. What do you think?
You know, I don't know if it's going to go there.
Yeah.
There's no way to say, but what I like to think of is a new day's dawning, and I see a broader range of options. I see the federal government being less prescriptive, but you know, that doesn't stop the state of Oregon from being the state of Oregon.
Right.
And my view is, let's allow the 50 different states and all the different school districts to do this experimentation, and don't have the federal government coming down and telling them how to do it. Let's just let this happen, and we'll see what works and what doesn't. And you know what? The interesting thing is that we need to be prepared to fail.
Yeah.
We really need to be prepared to fail, and if it doesn't work, great, we'll move on to something else. The problem is that that public education in too many people's minds is a monopoly, and monopolies don't like alternatives. Well, we're going to get alternatives, and that's the best part of this.
It's called competition.
Competition.
It's called capitalism.
It's called alternatives.
Yeah.
It's, ooh, this sounds like a good idea. Why don't we go try that and see if it works?
So I can see where maybe the public school system wouldn't be too upset about more charter schools, but if an actual student leaves the public school system and goes to a private school, that does create a little bit of a rub because it does create the competition.
Sure, absolutely.
And may the best score win. You know, in other words, more students going off to college is a better deal.
Right. And you know, I think you're already seeing that in the public schools. If you look at around the public schools, they're getting more innovative, and they're looking out and they're seeing, you know, here's what charters are doing, here's what private schools are doing, and that can't but be a good thing. You know, nobody's, you know, those of us in the charter school movement, we're not looking for the public schools to fail. It's not like it's not like we want them to, that we want to win because you lose. No, it's what's best for the kids, and if this works, or it gives you an idea in the public schools to go try this, fine. Go ahead, steal every idea that we have. We don't care.
Well, Dave Dotterrer, he's a board member there at LOGOS Charter School, and been very involved in the legislature years gone by, and thank you for your service to our country. Thank you for your service to our state. You do a lot of things on the voluntary end of things, so thank you, Dave. Stay in touch. I'd like to see how this goes once she kind of gets in place. We're talking about Betsy Devos here. She's the new Secretary of Education, and see where this goes, and take a look at it maybe a couple months down the road.
Love to do that.
Okay, all right, we'll be right back.